Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah and here I like to tell history just a little differently. If you enjoyed today's video, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. Today we are going to dive into the life of King Henry VIII's fifth wife and queen, Katheryn Howard. Katheryn Howard's date of birth is unknown and it is often debated, much like that of her cousin Anne Boleyn. Her birth is placed somewhere between 1523 and 1527. Some even put her birth as early as 1521. Historians tend to place her year of birth to whatever fits their narrative better. If they're going for her being a naive victim, they tend to go for the later date. Gareth, Russell and Connor Byrne, Katheryn's most recent biographers, tend to date around 1522 to 1523. Katheryn's parents were Lord Edmund Howard, the younger son of Thomas Howard, 2nd Duke of Norfolk. Edmund never really caught the attention of the king and was permanently short of money, while Katheryn's mother, Joyce Culpeper, had several children from her first marriage, which included Isabella, who would go on to serve her half-sister Katheryn as queen. Joyce unfortunately died in around 1528, which meant Katheryn could have been as young as 1 year old when her mother died. But if we go by Gareth and Connor's estimates, then she was probably about 5. Little is known about Katheryn's early life, but David Starkey describes it as a scrabbled childhood with a dominant, providing mother and a weak, debt-ridden and henpecked father. As with much of Katheryn's early life, we don't know where her childhood home was, but it is likely to have been Oxenhoath in Surrey, which was the childhood home of her mother, which, if true, may support Starkey's statement. Her father, Edmund, would remarry 2 more times, but have no more children. In around 1531, Katheryn joins the household of her step-grandmother, Agnes Tilney, Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. It was common practice for children to be placed in the households of friends or relatives of higher status. Though Lord Edmund lacked wealth, he had prestigious relatives, allowing Katheryn to enter the Dowager Duchess's household at an age between 6 and 10. Agnes Tilney was a strong supporter of her other step-granddaughter, Anne Boleyn, and frequently attended to the Queen. In theory, Katheryn should have been well supervised, raised to be virtuous, chaste, obedient, and prepared to advance her family status through a suitable marriage. The aim of Katheryn's education was to equip her with the skills needed to secure a position in the Queen's household before marriage, ensuring her virtue to make her a desirable match for a favoured man. However, Agnes did not approach her responsibilities with the same seriousness as her contemporaries. While Katheryn learned how to read and write, achievements that made her better educated than most women of her time, she and the other young women in the household enjoyed significantly more freedom than was typical for gentlewomen. Historical novelist Philippa Gregory depicts the Dowager Duchess's household as full of her young wards and companions, who received little supervision. Katheryn and her friends were permitted to entertain young male admirers in their large shared dormitory. Katheryn was described as young, merry and vivacious, rather than scholarly or devout. Historian David Starkey compared the household to a slackly run boarding school. Unlike her cousin Anne Boleyn, who ended up going to what would have been Europe's most finest finishing schools. Nevertheless, unlike some historians who believe Katheryn was entirely neglected, Gareth Russell argues that she was treated differently from the other girls due to her status as a Howard daughter. Much of her education focused on the importance of etiquette and proper deportment. Katheryn excelled in these areas and was consistently praised for her public demeanour. Music was a highly valued skill, and the Dowager Duchess arranged for Katheryn to have music lessons. One of her 2 teachers was Henry Manox, not a professional musician, but the son of a local gentleman connected with the Howards. In 1536, Henry Manox, or Mannock, had been employed to teach her how to play the virginals, a keyboard instrument. Manox made inappropriate sexual advances towards Katheryn, and she did reject his advances, but she did also meet with him privately on several occasions. We are led to believe that Katheryn engaged in kissing and some intimate touching, but would never go any further than that, as Manox was far below her in rank, and would never be a candidate for marriage, partly because he was already pre-contracted, something that Katheryn would regularly point out to him. Now, it is possible that Manox thought that if he could get Katheryn pregnant, that her family would be forced to allow a marriage between the two. This would then help him climb the social ladder. Mary Lascelles, who was also in the Dowager Duchess's household, reprimanded Manox for his attempts to seduce Katheryn, but Mary never informed Agnes of their goings-on. In 1537, Agnes Tilney, Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, moved her household to Lambeth, and it would be here that Katheryn would meet Francis Derham. Katheryn's relationship with Manox seemed to cool off, but that was only because he was replaced by Derham. Derham is often described as a relative of the Howard family, but if I'm being completely honest, I've had a look and I can't see where exactly in the family tree he fits in. He was employed by Katheryn's uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, and had previously been involved with Joan Bulmer, one of the household's gentlewomen. Between 1537 and 1539, Katheryn had a prolonged sexual relationship with a young noble, Francis Derham, who served as a secretary in her grandmother's household. Katheryn was one of several girls who slept in the maiden's chamber, where they served as ladies-in-waiting and learned the skills expected of princesses. It seems that Katheryn persuaded a servant to steal the key to the chamber, which was locked at night. After lights out, she would let Derham and his friends sneak in for secret parties that included midnight feasts and various forms of kissing and tickling. Katheryn Howard and Katheryn Tilney often entertained the affections of Francis Derham and Edward Waldegrave. Howard and Derham referred to each other as husband and wife, which many viewed as a binding betrothal. Jealous Manox informs the Dowager Duchess, and when Agnes caught Katheryn in Derham's embrace, she promptly put an end to their relationship. It's even reported that Agnes struck Katheryn. At the time, consent, consummation, and the public appearance of being spouses constituted a valid marriage. However, Katheryn insisted that she meant nothing serious by calling Derham her husband and never intended to marry him. This assertion is likely true, as she was eager to join the court and probably hoped for a more prestigious marriage than that of a mere family retainer. How much Katheryn consented to these relationships is always debated by historians, some viewing her as a harlot, while others a victim. Philippa Gregory asserts that the pair almost certainly became lovers, addressing each other as husband and wife. Meanwhile, Lucy Worsley, who I've seen live when she toured about Agatha Christie, amazing, must see, highly recommend, asserts while living with the Duchess, Katheryn was sexually exploited by two men of the household. Both men took advantage of their position of authority in the household, and Katheryn had no means of defending herself. Francis Derham left England for Ireland in 1539, probably as a result of the above scandal, and he entrusted Katheryn with £100, which is about £42,000 in 2017 money. This is often used as evidence that he thought he was pre-contracted, if not already married, to Katheryn. At the end of 1539, the nobles were all scrambling for places within the new Queen's household, who should have already been in England but had been delayed. Katheryn's uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, requested positions in the new Queen's household for three of his nieces, Mary Norris, Catherine Carey, and Katheryn Howard. Since it was common for a maid of honour to serve before the age of 16, we can infer that Katheryn was likely born in 1523 or earlier. There has been speculation about how much the Duke of Norfolk knew about his niece's sexual relationships. While the Dowager Duchess was definitely aware, there is no evidence she shared this information with her stepson. In 1539, neither she nor Norfolk could have anticipated that Katheryn would attract Henry's attention. Agnes likely kept her knowledge to herself to avoid damaging Katheryn's marriage prospects. And let's be honest, virginity was not a necessity to be the king's mistress. In early January 1540, Anne of Cleves arrived in England, and Katheryn joined her household. During this time, Katheryn met and became interested in Thomas Culpeper, a gentleman of the king's privy chamber and a distant cousin. The attraction was mutual, and there may have been talk of marriage. Thomas Culpeper was a murderer and a rapist. However, there were several Thomas Culpepers running around at court at this time. So, unfortunately, there is no way of knowing if the Thomas Culpeper that Katheryn got involved in was the same one who was guilty of those crimes. It would definitely make for a good story, but it is unlikely that the chivalric Henry would have kept someone of that calibre amongst his closest companions. So on that note, let's just say it was him, just to make it more interesting. King Henry VIII wed Anne of Cleves on the 6th of January 1540. And with that, that's where I'm going to leave today's episode, as there really isn't too much to cover for Katheryn's early life. In the next episode, I will cover her tenure as queen. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that episode when it comes out. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a wonderful day.